What up guys, Dreadshells here. It's been a while since I've done an instructional video other than a personal replay. So today I decided I wanted to show this T71 game I had on Fisherman's Bay. It's a map I like quite a bit actually, no matter what tank I'm in. I feel it's fairly balanced and it has a little bit of something for every tank class. I want to talk today specifically about battle dynamics, and by battle dynamics I mean how to work with the battle as it progresses. Your team makes decisions and the enemy team makes decisions, and how they interact with each other is how the battle evolves, and you need to work with the flow of the battle instead of trying to stay in a certain position because it's quote unquote good. It's not good all the time, is what a lot of people fail to understand when they're making their decisions in the battle. That position may be strong, but it's not strong and it's not relevant given the current situation. So you always need to be constantly reanalyzing the battle. Use the time in between your reloads. Use the downtime in between engagements to reanalyze the battlefield. Look at the mini-map and see if your position is compromised, or if a teammate's position is compromised, and see how you can help him, or see how you can relocate yourself so your team can help you better. So at the start of the battle, we always analyze the enemy team composition. And from the start here, we see that they're actually fairly slow. They have quite a bit of heavies. They have a Type 61, a Type 59, and 3 scouts, Tier 7 scouts. So that's basically more or less their fast vision. And on Fisherman's Bay, a lot of the vision game goes on this E line, F line area. As a scout, you want to do your best to keep this ridge line spotted, not necessarily trying to do damage yourself in a light tank, because you have to expose yourself quite a bit to do so. If the enemy overcommits, then by all means do damage, but the peek and poke game on this ridge line is more for mediums. What you're really trying to do is keep intel on this ridge so your team can make better decisions on where they should go, either on the city or on the 1-2 line, and how aggressive they can be given the number of enemy tanks that they know are in the middle. We check and see if there's artillery. There's one, so that means that we need to keep in mind that even though we're safe from direct fire because we're behind a building or behind a ridge, that we also need to keep moving because we're not necessarily safe from arty fire either. So I'll be stopping this game periodically to explain my thought processes on my decisions, because the battle just happens too fast in some spots for me to explain it. But let's just get started. And as you can see on our team composition, we have a very similar lineup. We actually have a little bit less middle control potential. And it all depends on where our Lorraine and T34-3 go. And unfortunately, our mediums are going to the 2 line. It's not really the best decision when you only have a couple on your team. You want to try and keep a presence here in the middle if you can. I like going up to the 6, 7, 8 line and doing this really aggressive early roll scout here. I'll just pause it here for a second. I like taking out this house right here in my roll scout, because if the enemy team moves up here to this corner in the city, anyone who's back in this position on this house back here will be able to shoot them on the corner. Otherwise, they'll have to waste a couple shots on this house here. Also, I like doing this roll scout because it's really common for enemy scouts to move to this bush here next to this house and to this bush on this house to get spots on your team as they cross early. So it's really good to be aggressive and try to screen off any enemy scouts that are moving into this E6 area, so your guys moving into the city don't get damaged. And as you can see here, there's only 2 tanks in the middle, me and another scout, and the rest of our team have flexed completely, either completely to the west or completely to the east. And I'm using this bush here kind of as a camo value. It doesn't stand up very well to tanks at closer range because their view range cuts right through your camo rating. And I moved behind the house immediately because I knew that that Bulldog or that Type 59 would have spotted me right away. So I wait for my spots to drop and then I leave the house so I don't get artied. And right now I'm just kind of stalling. I'm waiting to see what the enemy team puts into the city, and I'm also trying to keep vision on the mid-ridge so that the tanks on our west and on our east don't get shot from 2 different directions for free. I'm trying to figure out why our arty is still sitting in the cap circle there and not in a better position for better angles. I could be being a little bit more aggressive here in those bushes next to this house up here, but I decided to move up and start shooting this I6. I6 has pretty good armor, so it's hard to penetrate him here. Just kind of harassing him. Our guys, as you can see there, our IS and Tiger P are under a decent amount of pressure from the outside lane there. That was a mistake made by me. I thought I had gotten invisible, but I didn't let my spots drop long enough, and he saw me moving into the bush even though I was unlit. So it was a really educated shot by him, and I paid the price for it. But now the enemy team is getting really aggressive in the city. They know that they have whatever tanks are in the city in a pincer there on the F8 grid square. And so what I'm just trying to do here is using some bush mechanics and just trying to put as much suppressing fire as I can into them to slow them down. The T-34-3 comes over to help, which is awesome. Good move on his part. Recognizing that our tanks in the city are in trouble and that we need to put pressure on them from one side to help our guys out. Once again, using bush mechanics if you can, and going for the low health targets to take them out, get the guns out of the fight. And going for another reload here. I really like the T71 because even though it's an autoloader, its reload is not that long and the clip potential is really high for the time that you need to reload. So I am going to stay here with this T-34-3 as long as there's guys on my team alive in the city, right? We're creating multiple angles of attack. I'll pause it just for a second here. As long as there's guys alive on my team in the city, I'm going to stay here in the middle with this 34-3 as long as I can, because we're creating 2 angles of fire on these enemy tanks that are pushing out the outside of the 8 line, right? So I want to take advantage of that as long as possible while their attention is focused on my teammates in the city. As soon as my teammates in the city die, I lose the pincer, right? I lose the extra angle of attack. And because most of them have a lot more hit points than I do and a lot more armor, I'll need to run away once my teammates in the city die. And of quite honestly, so should this T-34. We'll need to flex back to a situation where we can create another two-angle of attack situation, right? Now I'm going for another reload. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to kill that BK. Their Type 61 there was getting aggressive in the middle, trying to peek and poke to see if he could put some fire in on us, but he's taken some damage earlier in the game, and he doesn't feel that confident pushing at both me and this medium. Unfortunately, we lost all our tanks in the city. A lot of it had to do with poor positioning on our team. They were sitting on the outside line when they didn't know where the enemy team had their tanks in the city. And right now, I'm relocating. I know that they're going to be pushing out of the city, and this Type T-34. I'll just pause the game here again. This this T-34-3, he is not in a good position, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying flexing with the battle as it evolves in the battle dynamics. We've lost the city, right? We have no tanks here, and we don't have the two angles of fire in on them anymore, where they have to split their attention and their focus. He's out in the open. He can get shot at by all the tanks that will be coming out of the city. He may feel like he's in cover, but he's only kind of really in cover from this Type 61 here to his left, and kind of in cover from artillery. But he has his side and his front way out in the air. He's not in cover at all from all these tanks that will be coming out of the city. He should have relocated back to either J. If he wanted to defend and stand his ground, he should have relocated either to J2 or back here to G3, G2 where I am, because at least there's this ridge line, right? That can protect us from all the tanks, and we can use our superior vision and camo rating to outplay the tanks coming out of the city. Our team here have been pushing up the 1-2 lines, which is nice. We can be a little bit more confident that when we relocate back here to this G3 F3 area, that we won't get shot in the back as we're trying to defend our cap. And I stop here. I'm not using a bush, but I know that I'm out of view range of these tanks, so I'm taking my time and getting the damage in while I can. And I go for a reload here. And now that the tanks coming out of the city are getting closer, I need to make sure that I'm keeping vision on these tanks, right? The T-34-3 is kind of dogfighting with the Type 61, and he's not really keeping vision on the tanks moving into our cap. So I'm multitasking here. I'm doing my own damage, and I'm also spotting to see how close the enemy team is. Always adjust the focus of your fire if there's a low health target to take them out. But I'm multitasking here. I'm keeping vision and seeing how far they're progressing into our southern flank, and two, reversing back behind the bush far enough to where it's 15 meters in front of me, so I won't get spotted if I'm shooting at targets that are directly in front of the bush, where the bush is in between me and them. And the T-34-3 died. And now my decision is, I know I'm looking at the Type 61's health, and I know he's really low. So I know I can be aggressive up here and relocate. The tanks coming out of the city were getting really close, and I didn't have very good vision on them, so I relocated up here to where I could have a better angle to spot them. And I'm not worried about shooting here, because I know I won't get spotted from the Type 61 unless he comes all the way around. And there's lots and lots of shrubs there around our cap circle, so I know I probably have at least one layer of concealment in between me and them. So now I'm just stalling for time here, I'm reloading, and then I'm going to push the Type 61 because I know he's on low health. I'm willing to take a hit to kill him and take his gun out of the fight. This is why trying to be as diligent as possible with your hit points throughout the battle is really important, because it allows you to make those kind of plays where the tanks that you kill are more important than the hit points that you lose. And I stopped behind that bush or behind that house for a second to let my spots drop, because this ISU on the enemy team has still not been spotted, so I'm worried that he might be still in the B2 corner. So I'm kind of a one-shot here, so I'm playing a little bit conservatively in trying to spot this T-34 that's in our cap area, and I'm kind of trying to get my Lorraine to try and spot the T-34, because he can take a hit from the T-34 and he can actually kill him by himself even if he wanted to. But I get spotted there. The bushes around the cap are giving the T-34 pretty good cover. But I'm actually not sure if I spotted him or if Lorraine spotted him, but he dies for it. And now pretty much the rest of the battle is trying to hunt down Artie and trying to hunt down the ISU. You can see him that he was spotted there actually in the very, very top left corner of A1. So I'm just going to put the replay on ×2 here, because otherwise it'd be really boring. But to recap on the battle, the difference between the decisions that I made once all our tanks in the city had died and the decisions that the T-34-3 made were, I recognized that I had lost the multiple angles of attack and the line of cover, and I realized I needed to relocate, otherwise I was going to be the one that was taking two lines of fire, right? So you always need to be looking for ways where you can make a lot of pressure on your enemy to force them to split their focus, and it will be easier for you to kill them that way. This ISU is still hiding in that corner. I'm not really interested in going up there and trying to spot him or kill him, because he's at the very corner. He was at the very corner of the map, so I couldn't flank him, and we knew where he was already. So it was up to our team to push him, which they did, and I believe their own artillery killed him. And he was trying to shoot one of our team, which is pretty funny. And obviously their artillery has run away all the way the 1-2 line. He was more aggressive than his ISU teammate, which is pretty funny. And the 112 takes the kill. So to recap, basically what happened during the course of this battle is that the enemy team didn't put a lot of tanks on the 1-2 line. They put quite a bit of their force in the city on the 8-9 lines, and even though we had a decent number of tanks in the city, we lost it eventually because the enemy team made a really good push, going on the outside here along the 7 line and on the inside along the 8 line to create two angles of attack on our position that was on here. Me and the T-34-3 recognized that our tanks in the city were under pressure, so we stayed in the middle here and put as much suppressing fire into them as possible while our teammates were still alive. But the enemy team killed off everything in our city, and part of the reason I really like Fisherman's Bay is it's really dynamic. And even though the spawns are north and south, because how the battle evolved, the mid and late game turned into a a west versus east, right? We had the 1, 2, 3 lines more or less under control, and they had the 7, 8, 9 lines under control, more or less. And when that happens on this map, it's the vision and spotting aspect of the game becomes hugely more important. One, because once the battles progress to that point, obviously there will be a decent amount of tanks dead on both sides, so you have more vision gaps, and you're able to get into positions to spot easier. And two, you have this B, C, D field here, and this G line, H line, J line area, where you have a lot of open ground and a decent amount of bushes to use to spot tanks coming in from the flank that was defeated. And so you as a scout suddenly become way more important than you were before. And so I stayed in the middle here in F5 as long as I could, but once our team all died, I flexed back into the bushes along this 3 line here in F3 and G3, and I tried to keep vision on their team that was pushing in from the city into our cap as best I could while doing my own damage. Our T-34-3 did not recognize that his position was compromised and no longer relevant, and he just stayed there because it was a good position before, but he didn't recognize that it wasn't a good position after we had lost this flank, and he died for it. And basically from there, I just put as much suppressing fire into the enemy team as I could while they were coming out of the city. And because of my vision that I was giving, all of our tanks on this 2 line and 3 line were able to put enough shots in to where we killed off their push and stalled it. And because from that point the rest of their team were really isolated, we were able to pick them off one by one. So remember, guys, never stick in one spot just because it's good generally or because it was good once during the battle. The battle always evolves, it always progresses, and you need to be paying attention to what your team is doing and what the enemy team is doing and how they're interacting with each other, and seeing how you can best relocate to positions where you can get better vision on the enemy team and better angles of fire on the enemy team to outplay your opponents. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this replay, and we'll see you next time.